Only half a night remains, but two very interesting options present themselves before Jessica this evening before she decides to turn in as the sun rises. The feeling of being followed continues, and now she believes that that person and or kindred or perhaps something other might be following her again after their brief encounter. But Sophie also still has a spy by her door, the one we took care of last time. I think our best bet for Jessica is to put Sophie at the forefront of our priority list. Let's see if Frank Doherty is still sticking around. The weather is cold and windy as you walk to Sophie's apartment. As a vampire, that doesn't matter anymore. You may have been saddled with eternal hunger, but at least you can ignore the wind chill. Just as you come to the door of Sophie's building, she storms out, murmuring into her phone. Yes, I know, don't worry. I trust you to handle it. You've heard Sophie talk to her associates before. It's always the same. Generalities and vague suggestions. It makes you think she's involved in mysterious machinations, yet doesn't tell you anything. Sophie is dressed to kill, but there's nothing unusual in that. She likes to make an impression. A black car with tinted windows is waiting for her in front of the door. A chauffeur steps out to open the car door for her. Sophie notices you. I'm glad you're in the neighborhood. If you could look around for me one more time, that would be wonderful. You told me you'd gotten rid of that reporter. Turns out he's still here snooping around. Sophie is very good at communicating disappointment. She doesn't have much to do. She doesn't have to do much to make it clear that she's unhappy to have to return to this issue. I don't like these options. They all seem so bizarrely subservient, even though we're doing this in a form of goodwill and to reach out an olive branch, etc., and to continue appeasing the one who allowed us to live in this world. This all feels very grovelly. I'll take care of it. After tonight, he won't trouble you anymore. Good, don't disappoint me. The reporter talked his way into the building during the day. Once the doorman understood what was happening, he threw the reporter out. He showed old pictures of me to my neighbors. It's very awkward, you understand? Sophie disappears into the car and the chauffeur closes the door behind her. You watch as the sleek vehicle disappears into the Manhattan traffic. Just one anonymous car among many. Best sit down somewhere and devise a plan of action. You go to a nearby diner, settle into a booth and order a coffee from a steely-eyed Latino waitress. As she brings you your cup, you describe Frank Doherty to her on the off chance she's seen something. Just as she's about to answer, you happen to look outside. Something catches your eye. The diner is brightly lit, so you lean closer to the window to see the street through it. You got lucky. Frank is standing on the sidewalk on the other side of the street, looking at something on his phone. You slide out of the booth, throwing a few small bills on the table, mumbling something to the waitress, and you step outside. Auspex, you trust in the powers of your blood. You keep out of sight and follow Frank patiently. His scent is so strong that you don't have to see him to stay on his trail. He disappears into an alley. It's different from the last encounter, but could as well be the same for all the protection it'll afford him. Oh God, it's you again. Please, I'm working on a different story, I swear. Frank retreats deeper into the alley. It's fine, Frank. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot last time. Yeah. Frank appears relieved and even smiles a little. You okay? I'm sorry I tried to bullshit you. Just tell me how I can help you. I thought we agreed. How come you're here? I thought we agreed there's no story. Usually when someone says there's no story, that means there is a story. I just couldn't let it go. Look, I don't want any trouble. I can see that you're serious. There is something to Sophie Langley. I think you know what that is. You take a long, hard look at Frank Doherty. He's a tenacious man, but not brave. After the last time you met, you were sure he had been dealt with. Where did you find the courage to come here again? I like you, Frank. You don't give up. So, what's your real angle here?
Everybody plays an angle. That's one of the things you learn in my profession. You're smart. You know what there will be. You know that there will be others after me. If there's a real story, they'll come and find it. Your best shot is with a friendly reporter, someone you can trust. Someone like me. So what do you say? Get ahead of the story, it'll be good for you and Miss Langley too.
You almost believe it, but something about Frank feels off. You don't say anything at first. It's easy to dismiss Frank as a joke, a has-been. Yet there's something beneath his talk. Another story. A moment of silence is all you need for your presence to properly register in Frank's mind. He's too weak-willed to resist. Someone's leaning on you, Frank. Come clean.
What? No, absolutely not.
Frank's voice sounds shrill. You know you got it right in one guess.
Sometimes I just need extra money, that's all.
Now we're finally getting somewhere.
There's a guy, he's paying me, that's all, but I can't talk about that.
Now we get on the ground floor. We have our options to drink him or push him for information. But what did we talk about last time we dealt with Frank? And so sits our option. Tell you what, Frank, I'll make this easy for you. Work for me, and I'll make your life easier. I want to know who's after Sophie Langley, and you can get me that information. Who knows? Maybe this will become a lasting and lucrative relationship. Frank is taken aback by your suggestion. Still, he clearly needs a friend.
I don't know, I mean, if there are people leaning on me, they won't take kindly to it if I help someone else.
Let me help you, Frank.
I suppose I shouldn't say no to that. Tell you what, next time something comes up, I'll give you a call. Maybe I'll have something you can do for me as well.
Quid pro quo. What else is there?
I am a pro.
Frank hesitates for a second, as if he was going to say something more. He takes one last look at you, turns, and leaves the alley, disappearing into the crowd. You're left wondering whether that was a good choice. Frank is not reliable, that much is clear. But perhaps you can benefit from him anyway. Isn't that what kindred do? Play people and turn them into puppets. And that is our half of a night. Jessica rests now. It looks like our friend has returned, Benoit. But I still am very interested in what this is, so I think she prioritizes somebody's watching me part 2 here. You're in your haven when your intercom rings. Answering cautiously, you hear an older male voice.
Hello. I'm calling because a friend asked me to come by and offer you my services.
Who's this friend?
Better not talk about that on the intercom. Secrets are secrets.
The man sounds strangely excited, breathing hard. You may have the wrong address.
No, wait. I know you're one of them. Please, it's all right, I don't mind. You can drink with me, if you understand what I mean.
A man you've never heard from before is paying a visit to an apartment not many people know of, offering for you to feed from him. We are hungry. Let's continue this face to face.
That's a wonderful idea.
Silence. A minute passes and you hear a knock from the door of your haven. You cautiously open the door. Basically, the choice here is driven by hunger. Whoever this is, if it's somebody I can feed from, they're immortal, and I have nothing to concern myself with. If they are so brave enough to attack me near Sophie, who Sophie ended up giving me this place, Sophie knows of this place, then they're stupider than initially thought. A stranger looks at you sheepishly. He's in his 30s, dressed in a clean business suit. He looks moderately successful. Someone you can meet in an investment bank.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to intrude, so that's why I called from downstairs.
You know what? Come in. I was hungry anyway. The man looks comically satisfied as you usher him into your haven. He barely waits for you to close the door before he loosens the collar of his shirt, closes his eyes, and bares his neck in quivering expectation. You look at the man, taken aback by such forwardness. Figuring that you didn't invite the man here for a chat, you lean close, take him by the shoulders, and sink your fangs into him. Oh, I don't get a choice to question him? That feels like a mistake. This is not an unpleasant way to feed. You reflect as the blood flows through your mouth. The food comes to your door on its own volition. The man moans as you drink from him, lost in the ecstasy of the kiss. It feels a little unseemly, but it would be churlish to begrudge him his pleasures. Taking care not to drink much, you let go of the man after licking his wounds closed. Suddenly, you're startled by a surprising sight. A woman, not too old, strangely dressed, looking at you intently, only an arm's length away. Before you can react, the mysterious woman opens your front door and vanishes from sight, leaving you to wonder whether you really saw her at all. As you stare confused, the man you drank from slips out of your haven and into the hallway, staggering a little from the effects of the kiss. I'm surprised he walked away from that. You close your door, wondering what that was all about. At least you got to feed, if nothing else. I'm still very unclear what my particular feeding restriction as Venture is, actually. They don't really specify. We have to see Benoit, though. Sophie's lost child. Approaching the cathedral on the street makes you nervous. You've been here twice, and twice something bad has happened, or has almost happened, as in both cases you did run away. Benoit suggested it's time to stop running and experience faith head-on. Perhaps he's right. Maybe it is cowardly to take refuge in rationalizations when you know what you felt. The holiness of the priest in your own damnation. Walking towards the doors of the cathedral, you glance at the bench where you sat when you first met Benoit. He's waiting for you, sitting and contemplating the cathedral's Gothic architecture. Are you sure we should be meeting here? Don't worry, we're not going inside. Benoit looks different than before. Intense, certain. You've had some time to think about what we spoke of before. I'm not sure what to believe. All these stories seem so fantastical. You don't have to believe. You just have to open your heart to the faith Father Anthony represents. Let's go see Father Anthony. It's best not to talk in the cathedral, so I arranged for us to see him at his home. I have a car nearby. This better be on the level, Benoit. We're beyond that kind of tough talk, don't you think? You follow Benoit as he walks down the street until you come to his car, a surprisingly pedestrian family sedan. The essence of the Masquerade is inconspicuousness. Inconspicuousness. Nobody expects a vampire to drive a car like this. Benoit drives north towards Queens. During these moments, you feel almost anonymous. Just another speck of dust in a vast machine where every action influences the whole in tiny ways. The one thing you've learned about the kindred is that they are not lacking in self-regard. The prince of a Camarilla city is said to rule the domain, yet how much do they really affect mortal affairs? If you ask a vampire, they'll say a lot. Perhaps that's what made Benoit turn inward, the futility of finding meaning in a secret, predatory existence. Benoit stops in front of a red brick house, a little run down but probably not cheap. Benoit notes your interest. Father Anthony comes from an old New York family. He inherited the house. When I first met him, I was suspicious, so I checked up on him. If there's a complaint I could level at this game or critique, it's a very, very static use of all images. All characters only have one image. It's just the same one every time. Backgrounds are reused quite often. We've been to this a few times now. The writing is well done, if a little bit, there's a few spelling errors and a kind of weird bugs that happen when a character portrait shows up, but overall, the writing is well done, especially if you're new to Vampire. But man, I just wish there was more
visual novel-esque flair to it for being like a World of Darkness game. I would love to see more. Despite the way he keeps putting you in dangerous situations, kindred paranoia seems to come naturally to Benoit. Perhaps that's something you can learn from him. Isn't this a masquerade breach? I suppose, but we make ghouls all the time. We hunt. The masquerade is threatened regularly with much worse than this. This is something I don't particularly make aware to my players, and maybe that's a mistake as a vampire, or as a Vampire the Masquerade storyteller. But this is incredibly true. But to new vampires, paranoia sets in to a degree. It's weird, with new vampires, either they become very paranoid or they become too lax. There's a nice balance in between where small infractions are easy to ignore and explain away, and actually in some cases help the masquerade. But my players in my Season 2 campaign are slowly still finally learning that there are certain things you can do. There are lines that you can blur, laws that you can bend or even break quietly. But for the whole Season 1, they never truly grasped that, and it was either all or nothing. And I didn't do much to say, hey, listen, like you act masquerade, because I kind of create a living world, and vampires who are in the Camarilla are going to talk tough, and vampires who are anarchs are going to talk the opposite of such, for the most part anyway. And they're finally learning on their own, and it's really fun to watch. You follow Benoit to the stairs, looking around for any signs of an ambush. As you get to the door, the first signs of trepidation hit you. The discomfort, the pain that'll follow once you're inside. It feels like a physical thing, a burning sensation under your skin, in your blood. You look to see how Benoit is taking it. He's smiling, eyes closed for a second before knocking on the door, almost as if he's enjoying the sensation. The door opens and you see Father Anthony's kindly face. Your body feels as if it were in a vice. You haven't really been bothered by hot or cold since you were embraced, but now it feels like the surface of your skin is overwhelmed with sensation. The fear and terror are paralyzing. Yes. You barely hear Benoit's whisper. Come in, you two. I might not know much, but I know enough not to do this on the porch. You force yourself to follow Father Anthony into the apartment, despite the splitting headache and rising panic. It's hard to take in your surroundings. Everything seems to vibrate, seeking to engulf you. Framed portraits on a mantelpiece, a cross on the wall, a living room with lots of books, many of them old. I'm not sure I can offer you anything. I don't drink tea. You don't drink tea, I suppose. No, we don't. We'll be fine. Thank you, Father. Are you sure you're okay? You look distressed. Please, Father, you know this is difficult for us. You'll forgive me if I don't waste time. Father Anthony looks pained, whether because of the rudeness or out of sympathy for your condition, you can't tell. He motions for you to sit down, but you and Benoit are both too agitated to do so. You feel trapped, like a moth being smeared against a burning light bulb. It's hard to look at Father Anthony, but you can't look at anything else either. Benoit is starting to look increasingly unhinged. His eyes look as if he's seeing into some divine beyond just outside of the grasp of your senses. Now's the time, my friend. You have to decide if you're ready for salvation. Prove your faith by embracing the Father and let his radiance envelop you. What is he trying to have me do here? Fine, yes, I'm ready. Like, I'm curious, because true faith can kill. Here's the thing, true faith, which this Father clearly has, is gonna kill, but I don't know, hugging, like, I gotta do it. Like, my own curiosity. Yes, I'm ready. Benoit smiles cruelly as you fall to your knees in front of Father Anthony. Startled, Father Anthony takes a step back. Benoit, what are you doing? Father, it's time to be redeemed. For both of us. Wait, what? Benoit falls to his knees next to you, lifting his face in full embrace of the holy agony. This is not right, Benoit. Everyone has a chance for salvation. I understand there's something in God's presence that burns you, but you can work through it. Please, Benoit. There are many paths to salvation, and we'll find yours. I won't hurt you or your friend. Benoit moans in pain, stricken with grief and disbelief at Father Anthony's refusal. Please, Father.
They don't even believe, not truly. Father Anthony looks at you and seems to waver. Even his belief in salvation has limits.
Profess your belief or kill the father? What happened? What? I feel like I was misinformed. I was ill-informed as to what was happening here.
I'm killing him. Despite his kind nature, Father Anthony is a grave threat to the Masquerade. You must kill him for the good of all your kind.
Yeah, we went a little too far there, Benoit. I wasn't exactly ready for that.
As Father Anthony hesitates and Benoit grovels on the floor, you take a nearby candlestick. Marshalling all of your willpower, you lunge forward and hit the side of Father Anthony's head. You stagger to the side as your undead body convulses in pain. Father Anthony steadies himself on a bookshelf, blood trickling from a wound on his temple. He's an old man, but not a defensive one. His convictions of mercy and grace hiding a sharp mind for action. No! You both glance at Benoit, who doesn't seem to comprehend what's happening. Taking advantage of your distraction, Father Anthony takes a crucifix from the wall and pushes it towards your face. He doesn't seem sure whether this works in reality as well as in the movies, but you feel the burning caused by his conviction all the same. A cross in the hands of a normal man would do nothing, but with Father Anthony, it's different. In ordinary circumstances, you could kill Father Anthony with little to no effort, no matter how strong his mind. Physically, he's an old man. Now you can barely look at him. Your head is pounding. It feels as if the skin on your face is burning and you have trouble standing. Your cheeks are wet from crying, your face stained with blood that has come to replace tears. There is no victory for you here. You give in to the panic inside you, self-preservation winning over any conception of victory through violence. Benoit tries to grab your ankle as you run to the door, swing it open, and rush into the cool night. You're safe, but the implications of your experience are troubling. What does this mean? Whether practical or spiritual, you feel like you have to think about this for a long time. You're free to return to your haven, and there is a distinct temptation to keep the events of the night to yourself. Yet these events cannot be good for the Masquerade. Talk to Sophie. You make your way to Sophie's apartment, seeking comfort in the anonymity of the crowds on the New York sidewalks. Some are coming from a late night shift at work. Others are going out. You nod to the doorman and slip into Sophie's building, go up and knock on her door. Sophie opens the door in the middle of a phone call. She motions you to come in as she mumbles assent to the phone. She could be talking about earth-shattering secrets or an acquisition from an art gallery. Following Sophie's cue, you sit down in the living room. A few moments later, Sophie ends her call and sits down opposite you, regarding you with her usual mix of paternalism and disdain. You appear shaken up. It's not a good look to cultivate in the world of the kindred. Your child Benoit has been meeting a priest, Father Anthony. It's a masquerade breach. They must be punished. Benoit. He was amusing for a while. Sounds like I should have kept tabs on him. This is sad, of course. My child and a man of faith. I'll talk with Kadir and make sure neither of these unfortunates endanger us. Now you should leave. Sensing that Sophie is in a strange mood, you discreetly leave the apartment. As a vampire, you're supposed to protect the Masquerade, and that's what you did. You did the right thing. Yet still, it doesn't feel like you did. Honestly, I was in with Benoit to learn for a little bit. I don't know what I was expecting to going. I thought maybe we'd get a moment where we could see if we could face it. We'd have a choice. I didn't realize it was like you get killed or kill. And I'm not in the world of darkness. Look, I know this is a visual novel, but in the world of darkness, if you are presented with an option where you are potentially going to be killed, always bet on being killed by the end, because so many people would benefit from your character dying in some way. There's so many things that are, you're a cog in a political machine. Your goal is to make yourself the biggest cog in that machine, but you still have to be part of that machine. And if you decide to step out, you could likely die. What a night of activities for Jessica. I'm very eager to see what tomorrow brings.